Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this important town hall meeting. My name is Morgan Peters. I'm the CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of our chamber, the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Moncton, the St. John Region Chamber of Commerce, and the Bangor Region Chamber of Commerce, I'm pleased to be one of the hosts for this gathering, where we've come together to discuss and celebrate the strong partnership between New Brunswick and Maine, as well as the broader principles that have served as the long-standing foundation of the Canada-US relationship. Today, we'll focus on those shared principles, economic ties, and collaborative successes that have historically bound our two nations together. From the economic prosperity we've built hand in hand to the relationships that span our borders, we're here to reaffirm our commitment to promoting and fostering these vital connections. Before we move forward, we're presenting you with a table setting question in the form of a poll, which should appear on your screens shortly. If you would take a moment to answer, that would be great. And the question is, how concerned are you about the impact of tariffs, Canada-US relations, and overall economic uncertainty to your business? Not concerned at all, somewhat concerned, or very concerned. We should see those results momentarily, and I think I know what the results are going to be, and if not, maybe we'll have a very short meeting here today. There we go. So very concerned, 68%, somewhat concerned, 30%, and not concerned at all, 2%. So 98% in the concerned category. So I think that kind of speaks to why we're here today, why we have such a big registration and attendance. And so no, that's also, it's funny, when we first planned this, we kind of envisioned more of a roundtable to get folks to jump in and talk about their experiences. But with more than 300 registered, we pivoted to the format we have here today. So to get things started, I'd like to extend my gratitude to each of you for taking the time to join us today. Your presence here really, I think, underscores the importance of community dialogue and collaboration. It's through open conversations like these that we can address the challenges we face and continue to strengthen those values and prosperities that we share. So let's use this platform to reflect on the successes we've achieved together, to address concerns like the obvious impacts of tariffs and the overall uncertainty, and perhaps even to a greater degree, the devaluing of our two nations' positive contributions to one another. I think that's something that we need to really focus on as we move forward and turn the conversation back to discuss the ways we can continue to grow and thrive together as valued nations and partners. So to begin this event formally and discussion, it's now my honor to present, representing the government of New Brunswick, the Minister responsible for opportunities in New Brunswick, the Honorable Luke Randall. Minister Randall.
Thanks so much, Morgan, and thank you everyone for being here today. I'm Luke Randall. I'm the Minister responsible for opportunities in New Brunswick, economic development, small business, alcohol NB, and cannabis NB. As we're gathering here virtually, I just want to take a moment to speak to the strength and importance of Canada-US relationships. And I think the fact that we have 300 people plus registered for this speaks to the strength of that relationship, the concerns that we all have in preserving that relationship. We're not just neighbors, we're partners, we're collaborators, and in many cases, we're customers of each other, we're cousins, we're brothers, we're sisters. We're so connected, and we have been for centuries. Our ties run deep, and these relationships are vital to the prosperity of both Canada and the US. In particular, speaking today to a New Brunswick and Maine audience, that relationship is, as we all know, particularly vital. As we know, recent challenges, especially those affecting cross-border travel and business, have created real difficulties for many of our friends in Maine and New Brunswick. I want to acknowledge that, and I want to acknowledge that it's not easy, but I also want to say, Maine, we want you here. We want to have those conversations. We're here. We're open for business. Come on over this summer. Get your vacations booked. We really do know that we're friends, and we want to continue that friendship. I'm a small business owner myself. That's where I come from. That was my previous career, previous to politics. And so much of our supply chain was based in the US. I began my business started planning in 1994, opened it in 95. So that was sort of just as the entire supply chain in North America was rebuilding around NAFTA. So I actually served on the executive of the world's largest buying group for art materials based in the US. A lot of my friends are in the US, and so much of our supply chain was in the US, and much of that since October is broken down. It's amazing how much of the supply chain has disappeared. So I know certainly from experience the challenges that New Brunswick and people of Maine are facing, and how integrated we are, and how much time that's taking, and how much stress that's causing. The impact of tariffs has been a burden, and I want our business community on both sides of the border to know that the government of New Brunswick is working tirelessly to support them. I also just want to say that I'm so heartened to see that the state of Maine is equally committed to addressing these issues. In fact, Maine was one of the 4 Republican states that recently stood with Canada in opposing harmful tariffs. I want to recognize their leadership, express our gratitude for Maine's unwavering support. It really shows how important the politicians on both sides of the border, leaders on both sides of the border, and business leaders on both sides of the border recognize how important that relationship is. The collaboration between our province and the state of Maine is critical, and this partnership will ensure that we navigate these challenges together. We share the same concerns, and events like today's town hall are essential to show that both New Brunswick and Maine are serious about keeping our ties strong, supporting each other through these difficult times. I look forward to the conversations and solutions that will emerge from this gathering as we continue to work hand in hand to strengthen the Canada-US relationship. Merci. Thank you so much for being here. We're in this together, folks.
Thank you, Minister Randall. I know you have to run. We really appreciate you making the time for us this morning. I think that was the perfect tone to set for the rest of the conversation. And to keep that going, we're going to turn the floor over to Tracy Simmons. She is O&B's Opportunities New Brunswick for our Maine friends, Deputy Minister of Economic Development, Small Business, and CEO of O&B. So over to you, Tracy.
Yeah, thank you so much, Morgan, and thank you, Minister Randall. I really appreciate you making the time to be here, but you always show up when it's important to New Brunswick and Maine business interests. So thanks for being here today. So first of all, I'd like to thank our 4 chambers and their teams for organizing and presenting this session, and for allowing Opportunities New Brunswick to be a part of it. And Wade, I'm looking forward to hearing from your organization, as it does seem to have a bit of overlap with what O&B does in terms of supporting businesses, increasing exports, and driving investment in your state. And I am particularly thankful that when I checked out your Teams Canada desk, I did see that New Brunswick is listed as a key province. So thank you for that as well. As everybody on this call is well aware, Canada is Maine's largest trading partner by a wide margin. So I know the tariff issue is top of mind, as demonstrated by the poll at the front end of this meeting opportunity. And so we would share the concerns on the New Brunswick side. We have a shared strong economic relationship, and it's deeply rooted in our trade and cross-border commerce. I will also say that we have a lot of familiar relationships as well. And just me personally, I think I would have cousins in, I guess, right down the I-95, Bangor, Pennsylvania, and then in Florida. So, that just speaks to how intertwined we are as friends and neighbors. And so I will also say that, like Minister Randall mentioned, we were very happy to see recently that Maine's Senator Collins did recognize the importance of the Maine-New Brunswick relationship. And I'm just hoping you could pull up a slide for me here. I do have a couple slides, and it's really just to level set about what that economic relationship is. And so obviously this is the partnership. This is the data behind our relationship. Today, Maine imports about $3.4 billion from New Brunswick. And its New Brunswick exports total roughly $790 million. But I'll get into that in a second on the next slide. But obviously, what you'll see when I do show you the next slide is that there's a lot of interconnectivity between our 2 regions, and most notably as it pertains to our resource sectors, and notably pulp and paper, forestry, agriculture, energy, and manufacturing. And that's really a result of some of those large companies that are located on both sides of our border, of our shared border. Companies like McCain Foods, Twin Rivers Paper, or the Irving group of companies. And so with that, with those large players, often what we're seeing is operations on both sides of the border, which leads to the flow of products to and from. And so just without, I can speak to some of these bullets. I'm sure you've had a chance to give them a read by this point, but what the data tells us is that there's 94 Canadian-owned companies that are employing over 5,000 workers in Maine. That Maine exports more to New Brunswick than to any other single country. Maine exports about $790 million in goods annually to New Brunswick. And that we have 17 shared border points, which is really quite high between a state and a province. So if you could just go on to the next slide, perhaps. I will just explore this one a little bit before getting back to my remarks. So this slide really shows the flow of goods between the two provinces. And there absolutely on paper does look like there's a trade imbalance. But I think when you go through the data, what you'll see is that's really driven by two things. It's driven by fuel and electricity. Beyond that, it's a pretty equal and balanced relationship with a large oil facility here in the province. We do tend to send significant amount of fuel into Maine, and also obviously the electricity. So remove those two things, and it's really a balanced relationship. So I think that's all I need for the slides. If you'd like to just go back to this, thank you. So I think the other thing outside of that I'll just speak to about in terms of being concerned, it is on the tourism front. We spoke briefly on that on the front end, and I think Minister Randall shared that as well. What we're seeing from the data is that the passengers and the travelers across our land borders is at COVID type levels, which heading into a tourism season for both New Brunswick and Maine, that is concerning. And I do hope that we'll be there to support those businesses, as it is going to be uncertain times and there are going to be impacts. So from the New Brunswick perspective, we today are trying to prop up some supports for those tourism players in the industry in case they do feel the effects of the decreased travel. I will say that I am hopeful, though, that there's 300 people joining the call today. That's just a demonstration that we want to be good friends and neighbors and business partners. I continue to believe that the key is to stay focused on making the business case for Canada-US relationship, and that this might be just a moment in time, because the business case is there and it's strong, and we all know this. In February, I was part of a mission with Minister Randall, Premier Susan Holt, and other New Brunswick business leaders that went to Washington. I will say the conversations we had in Washington were positive and productive. Businesses, industry associations, all that we spoke with in Washington, undeniably, they understood the trade relationship between Canada and the US, and that how it has been beneficial to both nations' private sectors. So despite the passions running high, when you can get past the social media chatter, what you end up finding is professionals on both sides of the border that want to find a path forward to maintaining those good relationships. Our leadership team and senior leaders throughout provincial government, as well as our partners at the Chambers of Commerce, have been working very hard to ensure that New Brunswick business interests are protected as best as possible. And I'm certain that it's the same same story in Bangor, Portland, and throughout Maine. So I will say that business voices are desperately needed in the conversation. And I urge everybody to lead on this issue if they're able. At the end of the day, we all want what's best for our respective private sectors. And I know I can speak for ONB. Everything we do is about supporting the New Brunswick businesses and helping them in times of growth, but also in times of uncertainty. I think communication is a very important part of finding that path forward. So I would just urge everybody to do what you're doing today anyway, to talk to one another, to talk to your clients, to talk to your partners on either side of the border, and really show up like I know you're doing anyway, with the idea of how do we see our way through this period? How do we find a mutually agreeable solution to the headwinds that we're currently facing? So With that, just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to the chamber teams, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Back to you, Morgan.
Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate those comments and the leadership that you and your team and Premier Holt have shown throughout your time with ONB and since she's been elected. At this stage, I'm going to hand things over to Deb Newman, President and CEO at the Bangor Region and Chamber of Commerce. She'll introduce Wade.
Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, Tracy, also. And thanks to all of you for joining us this morning. I also want to welcome representatives from Senator King, Senator Collins, and Congressman Golden's office. Also, Senator Baldacci from Maine for being with us here this morning, for joining us. And I'm especially grateful to our chamber friends and counterparts in Fredericton, Greater Moncton, and the St. John region who initiated this conversation with us here at the Bangor Region Chamber of Commerce. As has been mentioned, we share a long history of partnership and a mutual commitment to ensuring that cooperation and working together for the betterment of the businesses we serve and our economies continues in this time of economic uncertainty. There are a number of chambers from Maine joining us as well, and their member businesses, and we thank you. Our chamber members have certainly expressed concern about the potential impact to their businesses with a reduction in Canadian visitors. And again, please come. We'd love to have you visit. And others are concerned about the additional cost of doing business as a result of tariffs. And this applies to businesses in a variety of sectors and many different sizes of businesses. No one knows more about the history of our trade relationship than our next guest, Wade Merritt. For more than 2 decades, Wade has worked for the Maine International Trade Center and has served as president since 2017. During this time, Wade has served Maine's business community through the creation and development of several focused initiatives, including the Canada Desk. He has organized multiple trade missions to 15 different markets on 4 continents. And actually, Wade just returned from Washington, D.C., where navigating this trade environment was a topic of conversation. So we welcome Wade. And Wade, I will turn it over to you for your thoughts and insights. Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it. Lovely to see everybody. Sorry, just trying to get things figured out. You'd think 5 years into using the Zoom thing, you'd have it, but there you go. Thank you to Deb. Thank you to the chambers, the minister. Tracy, thank you as well for your remarks and for taking those on today with the trade statistics. It means I don't need to do it. Put a ditto on all of those things. As Deb said, excuse me, I'm Wade Merritt. I'm president of the Maine International Trade Center. And I have the privilege of leading a group of 9 professionals here whose job really is to bring international opportunities to Maine's businesses, its workforce, and its communities. As Deb said, I personally have a deep connection with Canada. Founded the Canada Desk in 1998 here when I was living up in Bangor, which really was involved in trying to foster greater connections between Canada and the Bangor region, but really across the state, which sort of culminated in some amazing work that we did about 20 years ago, actually, at this point, which brought the business communities of Bangor and St. John close together. It was a wonderful time and a great opportunity for me. I wanted to just kind of echo some of the comments made by a couple of the earlier speakers. I think the relationship with Canada has always been best described as the relationship with Canada has always been best described, I think, for Maine as doing business. I've always kind of been hesitant to say things like we're doing international trade with Canada, right? It is technically that, yes, but given the level of integration that occurs and exists between our economies, particularly in our natural resource-based industries, but also you heard from earlier speakers talking about energy, talking about tourism, talking about the shared cultural heritage, talking about our shared, in some cases, ancestry. It is clear that it is a relationship